I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema, where we focus on a film, and today I'm going to talk about my top 5 directorial debuts of 2023. This is the very first film of each of these directors that I'm going to be talking about. There wasn't too many that I personally saw the films of that would have made for a sufficient top 10 list, so I'm sticking with the top 5 that are all really good films in their own means. So coming in my top 5, we have 1001 by AV Rockwell. Now this is a great film that goes over a powerful story about this mother that's raising this child, that going from place to place in a different foster home and a different place to care for, and just all she has to sacrifice and go through is really presented on screen in such great momentous ideas and having a great story that really has an impact with the emotions and the directing. The look of the narrative is really translated in a really meaningful way on screen, with great themes of how racism is involved and just what she has to deal with to be the best mother she can, raising this child, taking this child where he needs to be, and everything that ensues is really impactful. And going to number 4, we have Past Lives by Celine Song, and she greatly executes this story in this Korean nature that just really gives this what if sort of scenario. What if this little boy and this little girl stuck together and didn't take two different paths apart from their lives, and the cinematography that comes for it really executes this idea, really brings together this great story that shows great potential between these lovers, and then meeting up later in life a couple different times based on their history. And the way they go about that is a really powerful romance that what doesn't end up working out at the end, but because of that, the story becomes more impactful, more grieving for these characters, because the director becomes so entranced with this relationship that you really get to care for these characters and the potential relationship that they could have ended up in. But ultimately, Celine Song's direction really brought this narrative to a great front of how she brought this film to life. And coming in number 3, we have American Fiction, directed by Cord Jefferson. Now, this is a great one that he brings in this great satire comedy that's not afraid of the language and everything it's going after. It just becomes fun, and I have a little bit of bias as an author myself, but this goes off the rails with the comedy, what they're doing about this black man writing in all of this different nature that he doesn't particularly always write as. He writes more generally in regular stories, but he writes this crime story that goes really strong into that nature that you expect for stereotypical, but it ends up going in all this different direction that becomes hilarious and something that's right up my alley, something that really makes an impact. And of course, it's going into a Best Picture nominee that I really do enjoy the acting and performances and just the general picture that really executes itself well. And coming in number 2, we have Killer Book Club. Now, I've talked about this a few different times, directed by Carlos Alonso Ojeda. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's just really execute this Scream ripoff sort of vibe that the Scream franchise just lends it so well into this story, that's sort of self-aware of this writing. Again, it's about this writer that sort of invades the privacy of this book club that's seeking to kill them off one by one, and they're the ones that are writing the story themselves and making such a great book out of it that's based on a real event. And so just the way it all goes about that creates a great horror tension filled adventure throughout that you're trying to figure out the mystery along the way, trying to figure out the killer, and it elevated its own story in a way I did not expect for a Scream movie ripoff that still has its own flavor, that still lends itself to the original in a way that I would not have expected, by having its own sense of mystery and going strong on its violence and actually executing a well-filmed story. And coming on number one, we have Talk to Me from Michael and Danny Filippo, some YouTubers that just really executed this great film, this great horror film, into the A24 genre, making some great cinematography, great horrifying images that's iconic, and these people and teenagers that are just making stupid decisions, but in some ways more believable than not, taking it into a direction that I just did not expect by the end. The ending being so impactful, but all of the journey throughout is so well written, so well filmed. The way they go about all of these technological aspects that make this film to be well filmed and just so well told makes that Michael and Danny Filippo to be some of the first best time directors that have come out in 2023. So that's just my favorite ranking of the first time directorial debuts of these directors, of these films. And I'd love to know your talk down in the comments below of your love for cinema and what were your favorite first time directorial debuts of the past year. And make sure to like this video, subscribe, and go watch a movie.